2015 is opening with the potential grudge match of the year. Welcome into MMA Live Extra. I'm Kerry Chow. Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier, UFC 182, January 3rd, UFC light heavyweight title. To preview, we bring in a pair of ESPN MMA writers, Brett Okamoto over the phone, and the author of Fightnomics, Reed Kuhn in Oakland, California. Brett, we're going to start with you. If you want to get technical, you could say this is actually the second time Jones and Cormier will fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, of course, UFC 178 Media Day. What do you expect to see inside the octagon?
Yeah, I'm expecting to see, a candidate of Fight of the Year for 2015 right off the bat. The first UFC pay-per-view in 2015 could end up being the biggest one the company puts on this year. A lot of attention is going to, like you said, that scuffle that Jones and Cormier had in the MGM lobby. But you got to remember, a lot of people were excited about this fight before that happened, just because you've essentially got two undefeated fighters coming into the cage fighting for a UFC belt. So that's a special time anytime that happens. I think Cormier can challenge Jones, and in this sport, that's what you want to see. You want to see the greats challenge. You want to see Anderson Silva's challenge. You want to see George St. Pierre challenge. Jon Jones is going to get challenged at UFC 182.
Reed, Jones has a massive height and reach advantage, but Cormier, he's used to being the smaller fighter in most of his fights. What do the numbers say about the matchup?
Well, the numbers are extreme in the sense that they are very, very different, and yet on the performance side, they're actually very close. So let's talk about that reach. This will be the third biggest reach differential in UFC history. That is a big deal. Longer fighters do tend to win a lot more often, and Jon Jones, while he has the longest wingspan in UFC history, Daniel Cormier is not just below average, he's below average for a welterweight. And here he is competing in much larger divisions with a short wingspan. And yet, you look at the performance metrics, and they are surprisingly similar. Daniel Cormier is accurate. He has actually thrown more volume than his opponents. He's just as evasive as Jon Jones, and he has more power, and yet neither one of these guys has been taken advantage of on the ground. So on paper, these guys match up very, very similarly, and yet there is going to be this massive reach differential that will, I believe, affect the outcome of the fight in terms of how it's fought. So this is very compelling for a lot of reasons, and I'm not surprised that the betting line is very close, considering it's a Jon Jones fight.
Brett, you talked about the hype and anticipation of this fight. The fight before the fight has actually been the centerpiece of the marketing campaign. Both fighters were fined. What do you think of the sport using that fight, that scuffle, for promotion?
You know, I think it's fine. I think it's one of those things where you can't start to rely on it for every UFC pay-per-view. You can't start to have guys, fighting at press conferences on a regular basis. But in this case, whether or not fans thought that it was real or not, it seemed real. It seemed like a real animosity between the two exists, and that's what people like to see. And I don't blame the UFC for using that scuffle a lot in the promotion. That's the build-up, man. When you're in a combat sport, or any sport really, when there's some bad blood running, it draws people's interest, and it certainly is doing that for this fight.
And it gave UFC's Dave Shore a little viral video fame right there. Reed, who wins this fight and why?
Well, it's hard to pick against the champ. He has been dominant. He has been facing the best of the best. But I do believe that this will be a very close matchup. And I think the difference where these guys perform most differently is with the kicking game. Jon Jones mixes in a very diverse striking attack. He doesn't focus on headhunting. Daniel Cormier, with the short reach, he really is more limited in how he strikes. And so I think that kicking game could come into play here. Daniel Cormier might be trying to catch those kicks and turn this into a wrestling match. But Jon Jones is very good at this. He knows how to keep his distance. He's going to move. He's going to stick. And I believe he's going to edge out the decision. It's going to be fun. It's going to be close. Daniel Cormier is going to try to make it up close and personal, a dirty match. So it's compelling. I'm going to watch either way.
And we'll get Brett's prediction on MMA Live Extra next week. ESPN and MMA Live Extra will be in Vegas for UFC 182 Fight Week. For pre- and post-fight analysis, be sure to check out the MMA page on ESPN.com. For Brett Okamoto and Reed Kuhn, I'm Kerry Chow. Thanks for watching MMA Live Extra.